Hi, and welcome to my channel. My name is Bryndís, and today, yes, another book haul, but this one is from Brighton. A couple of weeks ago, I went to Brighton in the UK, in the south of England. I was there for work, but of course, being in the UK, where books are quite a lot cheaper than they are in Iceland, I was very excited. And also because I was interested in looking up some used bookstores. So that's what I did. I Googled used books in Brighton and I found like a list. I only made it to two of them. It was a work trip, so I was very busy throughout the days. And I also had limited luggage space. Next time I go to the UK, I'm definitely going to like buy extra luggage, because it's so much fun going to these charity shops. So anyway, in Brighton, the first thing I did, actually on the first day when I was there, we came to the hotel at around 3 p.m. and we were able to check in immediately. So, and then afterwards I went walking around kind of the city center. Our hotel was at the waterfront, very close to the spiral thing where you can go up and like watch, like observe the entire city. I don't know what it's called, but yeah. So we were in an excellent location, so it was very easy to walk up. Like I think is it North Street or something like that. And there we found a Waterstones. And I've never been to a Waterstones. I've been to the UK several times, but never to a Waterstones, which is a bookstore, a chain of bookstores. Oh, they had so many books. My friend went a little bit crazy. She bought so many books, mostly children's books, but like picture books that you can read to children even if they don't necessarily speak English. But anyway, I was like, wow, there are so many books. But I also knew that I was going to go to a used books store, so I didn't want to buy a lot. Also with obviously my luggage requirement or limitations in mind. But I decided to buy one book. And I thought, you know what? I love Agatha Christie, as you can see. And so I felt like I need to, since I'm in the UK, I should buy at least one Agatha Christie book in person in the place where she lived. I mean, she obviously didn't live in Brighton, but, in the UK. And I thought long and hard about what book to buy. I have about 40, maybe, something like that, 40 books by her. And she wrote like over 60 books. So I thought long and hard about what book I wanted to buy. And I actually ended up buying The Secret Adversary. So this is the first book in the Tommy and Tuppence mystery series. And this may be, I think I have a feeling that I may be in the minority, but I really love Tommy and Tuppence. I think they are really fun characters. I feel like I don't know, their banter in between them and kind of, it's just fun. It's a little bit maybe more silly and less serious sometimes than Miss Marple and Poirot, but I really enjoy them. And I think it's really interesting that I think Tommy and Tuppence are the only characters in the Agatha Christie books that actually age. So in this first book, they are in their early 20s, and then you follow them. I think there are four or five? There are 4 books, yeah. No, 5 books. Yeah, I think there are 5 books in this series, and I enjoyed all of them. And so I thought, you know what, I'm gonna maybe collect Tommy and Tuppence in like this edition. I kind of like this edition. So this was the first book I bought at Waterstones, and even though it was like £9.99, that's like still approximately half the price that you can buy them, this edition, new here in Iceland. A little bit less than half. They're so expensive here, but I'm very excited. The next store that I found was, it's called Raining Books. And you can see here on the screen, it's a messy bookstore. Like there were books lying on the floor and just, there was some order in the chaos. He told me like, here I have the classics and here I have something like that. He didn't have any Agatha Christie books. I think he had a couple of her biographies, but no Agatha Christie books, which is fine. I was also looking for just classics, and I found a few classics for sure. So I found, and this he has like different color of the sticky notes on them, or like the thingy here. What's it called? Depended on the price. The price of the books depended on the color on them, and you could get like one for £3 or two for £5 and stuff like that. So it was really, really nice. And so this is one of the books I got. This is Anthony Trollope, The Three Clerks. I've never read a Trollope, so I'm very curious. I would like to maybe read one of his books for in October, but I haven't quite decided. But anyway, I have this one now, and very, very interested. And then I also found a Daniel Defoe, Roxanne. I've been also wanting to read Defoe. I think I have another book by him that I found as well in another bookstore. But yeah, so I have Roxanne. I don't really know a lot about these books, so I can't really tell you that much about them. I found Lady Chatterley's Lover by D.H. Lawrence. And obviously I know this is a very, this book was, I think, very controversial at the time. When was it published? In the 1960s. It was banned because it's quite sexually explicit, but that just makes it more interesting. The best thing they can do is to ban books, because then I want to read them. But yeah, so I'm really interested in this one. This is kind of like a modern classic. And I also found Alexander Solzhenitsyn, One Day in the Life of Ivan Denisovich. And I want to read Solzhenitsyn. He won the Nobel Prize, it says here, 1970. And also just I think I enjoy Russian literature, so when I saw this one, of course I had to buy it. It's a very kind of gruesome cover. Another book that I found is I bought it because, look at that. It's actually Silas Marner by George Eliot, which I already own. But I just bought this one because I think it's just such a cool cover. I think the one that I own is just this one, the Oxford World's Classics. But I thought it would be fun to have a nice edition like this one. This one would have been published in it doesn't say from when this edition is, but it's Collins, and I just think that it's really nice. Like it's like or it's kind of discolored. I love these old books, and it smells very old booky. And another book that I found, which I also thought was so nice, it is The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame. And it's very old, and it says, "Wish with love from Auntie and Uncle, Christmas 1937, it says here. Isn't that oh my God, I thought that was just the nicest thing. The Wind in the Willows. And it doesn't say when this was, but look at that. I used to watch the cartoon or the animated series when I was a child, and 1933 was this published. And it's the only there are no animation. It's just the text. But I'm just a sucker for old books. And then the last book in Raining Books store was actually a Jane Austen. So this is Park Honan, Jane Austen, Her Life. Now I did read a Jane Austen biography this summer, but this one I might read this one maybe next Austen July. Or I love Jane Austen, so you can never have too many biographies, I think, of her. Or maybe I will just have this one and the other one. 2 is enough, and there are a couple of pictures here and stuff like that. So very excited about that as well. And I think this cost me about £18. All these books, all this stack of books was like £18. And I could have bought like 50 books there easily, probably more, if I didn't have to actually carry them home with me. The other used bookstore that I went to in Brighton was Amnesty Books. So it's a charity shop run for Amnesty International, and they also had lots of classics there, or like a nice selection of classics for about £3 each, which was very an excellent price. And I found a few books there. Another Daniel Defoe. So this is Moll Flanders. I saw Nicole at what's it called? Noteworthy Fiction. Talk about this book earlier this year or this summer. And I definitely think that it's a book that I would be interested in reading. It's an 18th century book about this Moll Flanders who kind of is trying to make it in her life, make her way in the world, and in a world that has no mercy for young, beautiful women. So I'm really excited to get to this at some point. And then I also saw The Count of Monte Cristo by Alexander Dumas, and I bought it. Now I have to say, what was the book that I read? Wuthering Heights. I read Wuthering Heights this summer. And Wuthering Heights can be described as a revenge story. And I did not like that part of it. I thought it was just ridiculous. Yes, you were mistreated, get over it already. This is the ultimate revenge story, so I have to admit that I'm a little bit like, am I gonna enjoy it? Like him devoting his life to revenging something that was bad things that were done to him. I don't know, but I am very curious about this book because it is The Count of Monte Cristo. It's one of the most famous classics. Alexandre Dumas is also a very famous, obviously, French author, I think. But it's a huge book as well. I'm not in a hurry to read it, but I'm happy that I have it for when I do want to read it. And then there's an author that I really want to get to know, and that is Wilkie Collins. So when I found The Moonstone in like a paper Penguin Classics paperback, I mean it is obviously used, but I don't mind that. I don't mind if it looks like that. And I really want to read this book. I'm very excited about it. And we'll be getting to that, as well as The Woman in White by Wilkie Collins as well. So these are two of the books that I'm really excited about reading. I also own Armadale by him, which I think is somewhat different from these two. So I don't know, maybe I will start with one of these, but I'm excited about that. So those were the classics that I found at the Amnesty bookstore. But then I also saw this book, Shadow of Night. So this is, I think, the second book in a Discovery of Witches series, or the All Souls trilogy or series. I think the book 5 has just been coming out. I have been wanting to get to know, like to read this series. I have not found it here in Iceland, either used or new. The bookstores here are not carrying Deborah Harkness for some reason. So even though I'm not going to read this, obviously I will read the first book first, but I'm going to continue to try to find it here somewhere at the used bookstore before actually having to order it from abroad. But I don't have time to read it, to get into that series anyway this year, so I'm not in a hurry to find book number 1, and I wasn't looking for it while I was in Brighton. I could have probably bought it at Waterstones, or some of the other stores there, but yeah, I have book number 2, so I'm good to go when I get book number 1, for sure. And then the last book that I bought in Brighton was The Trouble with Mrs. Montgomery Hearst is a booktuber has a channel of books and things, which I'm sure you all know about. Or at least if you're interested in classics, I'm sure you know about her. I love her. She's one of my favorite booktubers. She is one of the hosts for Jane Austen July and for Victober, which is reading Victorian literature in October. And I just love her talking about classics and all of those things. One of my favorite booktubers for sure. So I was just walking in the lanes in Brighton, which is a beautiful part of the city and just very like European, and in the pouring rain. And I walked past this bookstore called Goldsboro Books, and I was like very intrigued, but at the same time I could see that, they're probably just hardcovers. I generally don't buy hardcovers except for my Icelandic crime fiction collection. Everything I have is in paperbacks. But I saw this book. It's signed by Katie. And I thought, you know what? It was very reasonably priced, so why not support a fellow booktuber? I'm barely there, but and I've been wanting to read her books. She has another book as well. This is her second book. I couldn't find the other one in this bookstore or in Waterstones, but that's definitely a book I would like to get as well at some point. So anyway, I'm really excited to read this, and I think it's just a very beautiful cover, and it says here that it's a love letter to Jane Austen and Elizabeth Gaskell. So that sounds very good to me. It's a historical fiction, and it's going to be so much fun to read it. I have a couple of more books that I actually bought here in Iceland, but I want to add them on to this book haul because I'm hopefully not going to do another book haul until after Christmas. I don't have more space, people. Anyway, so I had made the plan to read The Strand by Stephen King in October. But it is so big. And I'm tired of big books. So I don't know if I'm actually gonna have the capacity to actually read this book in like this. I may have to keep it for a few more months. And I have like a long-term project of reading all of Stephen King in kind of like a chronological order, at least by decade. So I'm still in the first decade of his publishing books. So from 1974 to 1983. And I read several books, but there are a couple of more that I haven't read. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do that. I do have The Gunslinger, the first book in the Dark Tower series, which was published, I think, in 1978, if I remember correctly. And so I could start that. But at the same time, I'm not sure, it's very reasonable length, but I'm not sure that I'm wanting to start another series because I'm still reading the Mistborn series by Sanderson. I'm reading the Red Rising series. So I just have a lot of series. I feel like it in my head, and but so I'm not sure that I want to read start the Dark Tower series yet. I do want to read it at some point, but maybe I'm just gonna wait a little bit. But then I was looking at the other books that I have to read. I was thinking about what other books from a decade I can read, and one of them is Rage, which is one of the Bachman books. So he wrote a few books under the pseudonym of, was it Richard Bachman? Robert Bachman? Something Bachman. Yeah, I have it somewhere. Let me see. Richard Bachman, yeah. So I was looking for that, but I was also thinking maybe I could just get, because I've seen the Bachman books in like one volume, because those are relatively shorter. They're like shorter books, and I know that I had seen that book in a book cafe downtown here, but I didn't buy it, and I've been thinking about, I should have bought it, because I didn't buy it because I have one of the Bachman books already, and I was thinking like, well, but now I'm thinking, okay, never mind. I'm thinking a lot. So I went to the book cafe, and they didn't have it, but they did have Cujo. So I went ahead and I got Cujo. This is an intense cover. To be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure that I actually want to read this book. Because I don't know if I can. Like, that poor dog. That poor dog. I don't know if I have it in me to read a book about this poor dog. But anyway, I bought this book, and it was a little bit more expensive than I wanted, but anyway, I bought it. And then I decided to go ahead into the main bookstore, the big bookstore chain thingy we have here in Iceland, and see if they had the Bachman books there, and they didn't, because I hadn't seen it online either. So, but then they had like a 50% sale on books in English, like made for me. So that's what I did. Yeah. Anyway, so basically what I did, thinking that, okay, I don't want to start to read the Dark Tower series, but I have the first one, and then they had the second one on sale. So it was, half price. So I bought it. And so now I have number 1 and number 2 in the Dark Tower. Although I'm not really going to start to read them just yet. But I had been on my mind, so of course I had to buy it. And then of course there was another one, like a novel, a Dark Tower novel. So this one they're saying that is a perfect bridge between the 4th and the 5th in the Dark Tower series. So it's like far away in the future that I'm actually going to read this book. The logic of when you buy books as a bookworm, it's very interesting. But I have it. And then the last book that I actually saw, that I kind of saw as I was on my way out, is actually Electra by Jennifer Saint. I've seen a lot of people talk about this book. I really enjoy Greek mythology and Greek mythological retellings. So when I saw this one, I also decided, why not? I have no idea again. Behind all gods and heroes, there are great women. The house of Atreus is cursed, a bloodline tainted by a cycle of violence. This is the story of 3 women, their fates doomed by the fickle nature of men and gods. Clytemnestra, Cassandra, and Electra. Electra is the youngest daughter of Clytemnestra and Agamemnon. Ooh. That's really interesting. I really look forward. And look at that cover. I mean, ignore the sticker, obviously, but so nice. And it's kind of reasonable length as well. Yeah. So those are the books I bought in September in Brighton, and a few here in Reykjavik. Way too many books, but oh my God, it's so much fun. It's so much fun to buy books in the used bookstore when they are so cheap. It's like striking gold. But now I am seriously starting to have a really big problem with fitting them on my shelves, so I need to read the books I haven't read and decide if I enjoy them and want to keep them. And then, anyway, I need to read the books, let's just say. I have lots of books to read, so I'm very lucky. That's what I'm thinking. Thank you for watching, and if you have any comments about these books, please leave them down below and we can have a chat. And I will see you in my next one. Bye!